Step into the shadows with 10 brutal hidden horror gems you can stream right now. From pulse-pounding scares to twisted tales of terror, these chilling pics will crawl into your mind and stay there. Number 10. Shelby Oaks. Mia has spent years haunted by the disappearance of her sister Riley, who vanished under mysterious circumstances while filming with a paranormal investigation crew. When a lost tape resurfaces, she returns to Shelby Oaks, its abandoned prison, derelict amusement park, and whispering woods to follow the ill-fated footage and retrace Riley's final steps. But as Mia's search plunges her deeper into the town's fractured past, she begins to sense that the evil chasing her sister never left. With every revelation, the boundary between documentarian and detective blurs. Shelby Oaks weaves found footage frames with traditional horror sequences, building dread through the textures of memory and the unseen. Number 9. Let Us Pray.
All I want from them is their souls. You, though, I want so much more.
Rachel Heggie, a rookie police officer in a remote Scottish town, begins a seemingly routine night shift until a mysterious stranger turns the station into a chamber of terror. Upon arresting a local troublemaker, Caesar, she and her fellow officers become entangled in a web of supernatural retribution where secrets, guilt, and biblical justice begin to twist minds and bodies alike. As the stranger, known only as Six, manipulates and reveals each person's hidden sins, the precinct becomes a battleground of confession and punishment. Let Us Pray blends siege horror with metaphysical dread, forcing characters to face the darkest parts of themselves. Its sharp tension emerges from moral judgment meeting brutal spectacle, and it lingers because the worst horrors might be the ones we've already committed. Number 8. Boys from Country Hell.
Oh, shit. If Abertag binges all night, the whole town's gonna be dead.
In a quiet Irish village that boasts the grave of a vampire even older than Dracula, a group of road workers accidentally awaken something buried deep beneath its soil. After disturbing a stone cairn linked to the ancient legend of Abhartach, the crew finds themselves hunted by a bloodthirsty force unlike any they've known, one that drains life without ever needing to touch its victims. As panic spreads and bodies begin to fall, old family tensions resurface, and the group must band together to survive a horror rooted in blood and folklore. The sleepy countryside transforms into a battleground where myth becomes a waking nightmare. Directed by Chris Baugh, the film mixes Irish humor with ancient terror, crafting a uniquely grim spin on the vampire genre. Number 7. Carriers.
Back off! Back off! We're not infected.
He's got it, doesn't he?
I'm not gonna...
In a world ravaged by a lethal virus known as the World Ender, 4 young survivors, brothers Brian and Danny, along with Brian's girlfriend Bobby and Danny's friend Kate, drive across the desert toward a secluded refuge called Turtle Beach. They cling to a strict set of rules meant to keep them alive. No contact, no trust, no mercy. But on their journey, the car breaks down, forcing them to take in a desperate father and his infected daughter, and triggering a spiral of betrayal, moral collapse, and desperation. As tensions rise, the line between ally and threat blurs, and their internal darkness becomes as dangerous as the pandemic outside. Number 6. Quarantine. Angela Vidal, a television reporter, and her cameraman Scott Tagg, along with a pair of firefighters, answering a late-night distress call to a Los Angeles apartment building. What begins as a routine documentary shoot quickly turns into an unthinkable nightmare when the building is sealed by the authorities and everyone inside is cut off from the outside world. As strange violence spreads and residents begin to turn feral, Angela and Scott must navigate dark hallways, inhospitable neighbors, and creeping infection, capturing the horror through their own camera lens. The claustrophobic tension is relentless, and as lines blur between victim and monster, the trio learns that survival may demand confronting the horror within. Number 5. Late phases. Ambrose McKinley, a blind Vietnam veteran, moves into a secluded retirement community seeking peace. But soon the nights grow lethal as strange attacks emerge under the full moon. When his guide dog is brutally slain and neighbors vanish, Ambrose becomes convinced a creature is stalking the grounds, and he sets out to unmask a werewolf hiding in plain sight. As suspicion spreads and the townsfolk resist his warnings, Ambrose turns detective, preparing silver bullets and traps while grappling with his strained relationship with his son. The film builds its horror around vulnerability, age, blindness, isolation, and tests whether a man cast aside by society can still raise a final, ferocious fight. Number 4. Splinter. Seth and Polly's romantic road trip takes a harrowing turn when they're carjacked by an escaped convict, Dennis, and his volatile partner, Lacey, on a lonely highway. After hitting a strange creature in the road, their tire blows and they're forced to seek refuge at an isolated gas station, only to discover that a parasitic fungal organism is overtaking human hosts in grotesque fashion. As body parts detach, reanimate, and attack independently, the survivors must outwit a creeping infection that transforms flesh into a living weapon. The horror intensifies via its claustrophobic setting and the creeping dread of being consumed from the inside out. Number 3. Primer. In a suburban garage cluttered with circuit boards and ambition, 2 engineers stumble upon a strange anomaly, a box that bends time itself. What begins as a scientific breakthrough quickly devolves into obsession as Abe and Aaron experiment with time loops, doppelgangers, and divergent realities. The machine, built with wires and whispers, offers wealth and opportunity, but with each trip, their trust erodes and the timeline fractures. As paranoia creeps in, the men become strangers to themselves, and reality becomes a puzzle with no clear edge. The film unfolds like a cold riddle, stripping away comfort with clinical precision. Every scene demands scrutiny. Every conversation might be with a version from somewhere else, or someone else. Number 2, Pontypool.
They cut into our signal.
In the snowy stillness of rural Ontario, shock jock Grant Mazzy arrives at a small-town radio station expecting another dull broadcast, until strange reports of riots, gibberish, and violence begin pouring in. As the station locks down, a chilling realization dawns. The English language itself may be infected, turning familiar words into viral triggers for madness and death. Trapped in the sound booth, Grant and his team must decipher the rules of this linguistic plague before it consumes them, and possibly the world. The airwaves, once a tool for connection, become a vector for horror. With each broadcast, paranoia swells and silence becomes the only safe space. Directed by Bruce McDonald, Pontypool is a uniquely cerebral horror experience, minimalist, unnerving, and quietly apocalyptic, where your own voice might be the last thing you hear before everything unravels. Number 1, Timecrimes. Hector is enjoying a quiet afternoon at his countryside home when he glimpses a strange figure through his binoculars. A naked woman, motionless in the woods. Drawn by curiosity, he stumbles into a nearby research facility and makes a decision that shatters the flow of time. Suddenly thrust an hour into the past, Hector begins an increasingly desperate attempt to fix what's gone wrong, only to discover that each correction deepens the paradox. As duplicates of himself roam the forest and violence bleeds into his reality, Hector must confront the terrifying cost of trying to outwit causality. The timeline folds in on itself, and soon survival means becoming the very threat he once feared. Timecrimes is a haunting, low-tech time loop horror thriller where every answer brings darker consequences, and fate has already set the trap. Here are 4 other movies you have to see. Hell. In a sun-scorched post-apocalyptic future, Earth's atmosphere has been ruined by solar flares, leaving survivors scavenging through a blinding wasteland. Sisters Marie and Leonie, along with a companion, seek shelter and food but stumble upon a farmhouse that hides terrifying secrets. As desperation and trust clash, the threat of humanity becomes as dangerous as the hostile environment. Sorgenfree. A mysterious virus quietly takes hold of a peaceful Danish suburb, forcing residents into government quarantine. As tensions rise and communication fails, a young couple and their families are trapped in their homes, watching their neighbors turn into something monstrous. Paranoia sets in, And survival depends on more than just staying indoors. The Cured. After a zombie plague is reversed, the formerly infected, now cured, struggle to reintegrate into society. Among them is Sinan, haunted by what he did while infected and torn between guilt and loyalty to his surviving family. But the Cured face discrimination and fear, and rebellion begins to brew beneath the surface. The Hallow. A British conservationist moves with his family to a remote Irish forest, only to discover that the locals fear ancient, malevolent creatures in the woods. When his baby is targeted, folklore becomes horrifyingly real and escape seems impossible. The forest is alive and it wants something in return.